Carabao Cup, the EFL Cup, tomorrow night against Wolves at the Molineux. Second time we're taking them on this season. We're going to give you a bit of a match preview today, and then we're going to start taking calls, and I want to know your opinions on the game tomorrow night, what kind of lineup we can expect to see, what kind of opposition we can expect to see, and are we going to be taking this competition seriously? When you look at the kind of past results against Wolves, it's been fairly good. But what you know against Wolves, they're always going to give you a torrid time, aren't they?
Especially how they're playing this season. If they go full strength, if as expected Tottenham make a few changes in view to looking at the North London derby, which I think Nuno has hinted that he has kind of like for example against Rennes, he said like when he took off Kane, you have to look at the game you're playing, but also you have to sometimes look at games ahead as well and protect your players, and I think he might do the same against Wolves. And Wolves are going to take, I'm assuming anyway, I don't obviously know, but I'm assuming Wolves should be taking this game very, very seriously because...
No Europe.
Yeah, they're not in Europe. They're the kind of team where if don't have ambitions of challenging the top six, then I don't see why you wouldn't go for the Cup. I don't get clubs, for example, like Newcastle, when they rest players in like the FA Cup third round. Like, I just don't get it. Like, if you're mid-table, why would you not go full pelt in the Cup? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, I think Newcastle might be a bit different to Wolves because Newcastle are fighting for relegation pretty much every year. But again, third round of the FA Cup is too early on in the season to even worry about that. So I get what you're saying. But Wolves especially, Wolves should not be... taking these competitions lightly because it's a competition they can literally realistically win. And yeah, under Nuno, what was their kind of what were they taking the cups like under Nuno?
I remember them in their first season in Premier League. I remember them getting to the FA Cup semi-final, and I remember they've beaten Liverpool in the FA Cup. They've beaten Man United in the FA Cup under Nuno. So I remember them taking it fairly seriously. I don't know about the League Cup, to be fair. I don't know what Nuno's track record. I can try and look it up. I don't know what Nuno's track record is in the League Cup for Wolves, but I assume he's going to be Wolves. Though I'm assuming they're going to be taking it seriously, and if they do, and if Spurs do rest players, I do worry for us a bit on Wednesday. I think our second team, if you play the likes Davis, Doherty, if Rodon, Tanganga come in, if we're playing the likes of Winks. And also up front, although we're not really blessed with options, I guess he might not have another choice but to play Son and Kane, to be honest, just because of numbers.
Yeah.
But I do fear that with the likes of Traore, Trincao, Jimenez, or Neves, if they're all going to be playing, I worry for us because I think although they lost to Brentford, I think this is going to be a cup tie and Molineux midweek evening game under the lights. I feel like they'll be up for it. Yeah. And I feel like they'll see this as a very big game for them.
Definitely, and as you can see on screen, 3 players out for Wolves for this game. It looks like Pedro Neto with that long-term injury, Johnny and Bueno as well. But they are, a team full of quality. Raul, Neves, Martinho, Trincao, like you said, Jimenez, Traore, who always gives us a hard time. But when you look at Wolves, they haven't scored a goal at home this season. They've lost every game at home this season. Yes, I keep saying I've been impressed with them, but if the same thing keeps happening with them and they can't seem to get the ball over the line, what's going on with them?
That's true. If it keeps happening, there clearly is a problem. I think against Brentford, the worrying thing is, I've always said this, for example, with Spurs, for example, against Newcastle, right, where last year we dropped points, we drew 1-1, but we actually played really well. And people look at that game because we dropped points against Newcastle. It's a shit result. And people automatically, even without looking at how we played, will say, "Oh, we were terrible, shambles, all that kind of stuff," right? Because we drew against Newcastle. But the fact is, we actually played well. We should have won. We should have won that game, but we didn't get we didn't get the points that we should have gotten in that game. But in football, right, things go in cycles. You can't always be 100% of the season on top of your game. You can't always be at your best. So it's super important when you're playing your best football, when you're on top all the time and you're having a great period, you get as many points as possible. It's like you always got to score when you're on top. And I feel like with Spurs last year, we didn't do that totally at the beginning of the season. We were in great form. We didn't get as many points as we should have. And then once we started getting to bad form, and then it looked a lot worse than it probably should have been because we didn't get as many points when we were on good form. And I feel like with Wolves, it might potentially could be the same thing, because against when they were on great form against Spurs, against Man United, played great games, really dominated the play, but they didn't get any points for it. And now they have a bad game against Brentford and they lose, but it looks worse than it is because they didn't get the points that they should have gotten when they were on top. And that's what I feel like is with Wolves.
But it's crazy how they've dominated so many games this season and just can't seem to find the back of the net. They just can't seem to do it, and it reminds me a lot of Brighton last season. I know it's early days, but it reminds me of Brighton, how they were dominating games last season as well. Couldn't find the net and ended up drawing a lot of games, losing a lot of games. And it seems as though Wolves have really started that season of the same ilk of, the Brighton of this season, pretty much.
Yeah, and I feel like Jimenez like everyone's obviously willing for him, desperate for him to do well and come back strong after that terrible injury, but he hasn't started the season. Look, it's understandable, but he hasn't started the season with that kind of sharpness and ruthlessness in front of goal that he had before the injury. You saw him getting frustrated with himself in the Brentford game, especially when he ripped the headband off and at the end of the game, and played the last few minutes without his headband after a header went wide. And he seems to be getting a bit frustrated. He just needs something to go in for him, something to bounce his way, and a bit of luck, and I'm sure he'll get back to his best. But it must be very hard coming back from an injury, not just getting back, not just physically getting back to your best, but mentally as well. Every time he goes up for a header, he must get a flashback to what happened and things like that. I'm sure all that kind of stuff goes through a player's mind. It takes a long time to go. For example, Luke Shaw, when he broke his leg, took him a very, very long time to get over that injury. When he came back, he came back, but he still wasn't the same player when he came back.
Look, it can happen to a player. It can happen to a player. It all depends on the mentality of a player as well.
He's good now. I'm saying it just can take a long time, because I'm sure, when a 50-50 challenge comes in for Luke Shaw, just after his injury, he probably thinks twice whether to really go full pelt and actually risk getting injured to win the ball, which is what you've got to do in a way to win a 50-50 challenge. And those kind of things can play on a player's mind when they've had a very big injury. So that, I think, here, and obviously they're relying on him up front, because obviously Fabio Silva, they've got him as a backup, but he's still very young, so you can't really rely on him. And they've got the new guy Huang from Leipzig, but
scored his debut. Yeah,
he scored, but he's going to take some time. I know he actually had some really great skill against Brentford as well. I don't know if you saw that backheel nutmeg, which was really impressive, but he's going to obviously take some time to develop. So they're relying heavily on Jimenez, and if he's not fully firing, then they're obviously going to struggle to be getting goals on a regular basis, because Traore and Trincao, for however good they are, which are very talented, tricky players, they're not regular goal scorers. That's the issue for them.
Well, in terms of the way Wolves are setting up, do you expect them, like you see on screen now, to go with a back five again, with 3 up top, 2 in the middle?
Yeah, it was interesting because I was looking at a Wolves fan channel on Twitter. They're expecting changes. They're expecting Wolves to rest some players, which I don't understand. But look, I'll be happy if they did that, because we really need them to rest players if we're going to have a good chance of getting through. If we're going to be resting players, if they're going to be going full strength, then unless we go somewhere near full strength, I can see us struggling. But I don't know Bruno Lager, and if he's going to take the cup seriously, but if I was him, I would go full strength in this game.
The way they might be looking at it is, the next few games after Tottenham are Southampton away, Newcastle at home, Villa away, and Leeds away, and they would look at those 4 games and be like, we can get results here. And with their start to the season they've had, like we keep saying, they've played really well, but haven't got over the line. Maybe they're going to look at this game, maybe to rest a few players and to get back onto form in the league, kind of thing. Maybe that's the way they're looking at it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Obviously, Wolves fans will know better than me, but I'll just assume they would want to go as far as competition as possible, because it's a very, like for Spurs. Yeah, obviously, we haven't won a trophy, but we have a few cracks at silverware because we're in Europe. I know it's a conference, but at least it's another opportunity to win silverware. With Wolves, they only have 2 cracks at it: FA Cup and League Cup. So for me to chuck one of them away doesn't make much, or to rest players and risk going out to a team who, in theory, have a better squad than you, doesn't make too much sense to me. For Spurs, it makes a bit more sense because we've got bigger things to aim at this season in terms of what we want to achieve, and if we can get through the League Cup playing a bit of a weakened team, then it's worth it. But if we're
what bigger things do we have to go
players,
for though?
Huh?
What bigger things?
Either a European spot in the league, FA Cup, and I guess Conference League, maybe European football. I guess.
Would you? Yeah, I mean, yeah, League Cup. I might have said like League Cup over Conference League if they didn't change that bloody thing that you only get Conference League if you win the League Cup.
Stupid.
It devalues the competition so much more now.
Yeah.
If it wasn't devalued enough before.
Yeah, it's true. No, I wouldn't mind. Obviously, I'd like to win the EFL Cup. I would like to win the EFL Cup, but I don't think it's. I think for even from a Tottenham hierarchy point of view, it's probably the least of their priorities because it probably brings in the least money, doesn't get you anywhere you really seriously want to be for winning it. Like, it's even worse than winning Conference League by winning the League Cup. So I'm assuming if any competition for Tottenham that we're going to take for granted, it would be the EFL Cup, probably. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But look, it was interesting because last season, Mourinho, I know we rested players in the Chelsea game, but we got through that, didn't we? So maybe Nuno's.
But our squad's weaker than it was last season.
Seems that way, doesn't it?
Well, our squad is weaker than it was last season. I mean, last year, who was the player that saved us in that game? Was Eric Lamela. He came on. I don't know if he started or he came on, but he was brilliant.
He started. Yeah, he played really well.
He was absolutely brilliant that game and ended up scoring that goal in the last minute to send it to penalties, and we ended up winning on penalties against Chelsea. But it's very difficult. It's very difficult to see how this game is going to set up. It's difficult to know what kind of lineup each team are going to play, really. I mean, to be honest, I think our hand might be forced in terms of what lineup we're going to play because we just don't have enough fit players. I mean, you would expect Bergwijn's not going to play. You would expect Mora's not going to play.
Well, Bergwijn, he's been pictured in a protective boot.
Yeah.
So that's a big worry because we've only got 5 attackers, so if one of them's out for any sort of sustained period of time, that really leaves us looking short up front.
Yeah.
And Kane and Son, obviously, Son's only just back from injury. He played 90 minutes on Sunday, but didn't look his complete sharpest. Kane looked out of sorts. Gil obviously got half an hour, but got a bit lost. Lucas is injured as well. I mean, it's worrying because we've got a North London derby coming up, and we need to get something out of that game. We have to get something out of that game.
And Tanguy Ndombele, do we really want to risk him in this game? Probably not. With his injury kind of record, Giovanni Lo Celso as well. Do we want to risk him in this game?
For Ndombele, I think it's a bit different. I think the more games, the better. For
you
him
think
at
so?
the moment. Yeah, I think he needs game time. I think he needs game time to get up to speed as quickly as possible. For Kane and people like that, it's not. I don't think it's a question of for Kane needing game time because we know
Gio's definitely a risk.
Yeah, Gio's
a risk
again, I
in
think
every game.
Another one. I think he needs game time.
He does need game time, but he seems to get injured all the time, and you just need to pick when he bloody plays because every time he seems to pull on the lily white shirt, he gets injured.
Yeah, but I would play him. Ndombele and Lo Celso I'll probably play tomorrow actually, but it's more
So
the
who
front
wouldn't
players.
you play?
It's more the front players. I don't know because I don't know what to do with Kane and Son. I kind of don't want to play them, but we have to play them because we're
going to have to play at least one of them.
Well, in theory, yeah. At least one. If you're saying Gil, if you're going to give Gil a chance to start, then I guess you have to play one of Kane and Son, but that involves kind of going for a similar formation we played against Chelsea in the first half, because we don't even have 3. If we're only going to play one of them, we don't have 3 fit attackers.
Yeah. It's such a sorry state of affairs, our squad at the moment. And, we were looking at our squad last season. Yeah, okay, fine. At the beginning, we were like, oh, it was a great transfer window. But as the season wore on, we were like, our squad is just so weak. Strength and depth is just not there. And our squad's weaker this season. I don't know how we're going to fight on all fronts this season. I just don't know how it's going to work. We just don't have enough players.
For it. That's why, for me, we have to be very careful about how we play our strongest team and how we use it, how we use our squad. And we have to really prioritise competitions this year because last year, we had Vinicius who could just hoover up all those Europa League games in the early rounds and stuff like that. We had Gareth Bale, who was playing in a lot of other games.
Who had his second best goal scoring year for us in his history.
Yeah. We had Lamela. We had players who obviously aren't necessarily the best players, but in these kind of games can do a good job for you. Now we don't even have that.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't replace Vinicius. We didn't replace Gareth Bale. We replaced Eric Lamela with Brian Hill, who needs time to get used to this football in this country. So, I mean, we are really out on our legs at the moment. We really are.
The problem is our backup fullbacks, like our Doherty, who I assume is going to play, Ben Davis, and if you're not like covering for them, they're just going to get exposed time and time again.
And as well, with the right-back situation, yes, Emerson's come in, a highly rated guy from Barcelona, but he needs time to settle into this league. Aurier has shown more than him, obviously, because he was used to this league. And still, if Aurier was at our club, he would still be our best right-back.
At the moment, yeah, as things stand. And obviously Emerson needs time, but at the moment, of
course Emerson needs time. I'm not saying he doesn't, and I'm not saying he doesn't have a big future ahead of him. I'm talking about right now, as of now.
Oh, after 2 games. Then
yeah, but I'm saying we need a squad for now. We don't need a squad for later on in the season.
Yeah, so it's worrying times. Nuno has got a lot of problems to deal with, and I don't know how he deals with it. Unfortunately, if I was Nuno, I hate to say it, but I think I'll just play a second string team in this one and go for the North London derby, because I think it's for example, if we win this game, right, go through to the next round, we play our first team and then lose the North London derby, everyone's going to be angry. If we lose this game and get even a draw in the North London derby, the morale will be a lot better.
Yeah, but again, like if we lose this game by playing a second string team, then we go to Arsenal and lose or draw again.
Yeah, I know,
everyone's going to be like, oh, why don't you play a proper team in the Carabao Cup game?
No one's going to be focused
because
on the Carabao Cup.
we could have won a tournament. We could have won some silverware.
Everyone's going to be focused on the North London derby. Everyone's going to be focused. If we lose the North London derby, that's all that matters this week. I'm telling you, that is the most important thing. That's what people aren't going to remember who we lose to in the League Cup. People will remember us losing North London.
They will if our league campaign completely falls off a tail and we don't even get like Europa League from the league. Then we'll be like, why did we throw that game against Wolves?
They won't. I don't think they will. I don't think the League Cup. It gets forgotten about very, very quickly, in my opinion. I don't think people remember it that often when if you go out. But I think what what he will be judged on is how we play in the North London derby this week. That's what he's going to be judged on. So if I was him, I would try and I would put all my eggs in the basket. I wouldn't play Kane or Son. I would literally start Scarlett, Hill. That's what I would do tomorrow. I don't think he will. Because I think he's gonna want to try and get through with a team that he can put out there. Maybe resting a few like Højbjerg and so rest who he can basically, but he'll have to play one or even both of Kane and Son tomorrow. But if I was him, I wouldn't. I would prioritise the North London derby, try and keep them as fresh as possible for that game, and try and get through, and obviously maybe bring them on if it's drawing with half an hour, 20 minutes to go, and see if we can win the game. Keep him on the bench, but I would save them for Sunday, because I think Sunday, we can't. I think if we go to 3 defeats on the bounce, after the North London derby and Arsenal overtake us, I think the morale is going to be very, very low after that. I think we need some sort of positive result to stop the slide.
Yeah, I mean, if the morale isn't low at the moment, do you reckon that first half against Chelsea does give them a bit of confidence, or does the second half knock the stuffing out of them?
A bit of both. I think the second half knocks the stuffing more than the first half would give us confidence, probably. But at least we can take how we played in the first half and try and use that as a way of knowing that we can compete against the very best when we play that kind of way. And yes, it did unravel, but we have to. It's still very early in Nuno's tenure. You've got to remember that. Still 5 games in, and it's a new team, a younger team, and we have to hopefully take that as a blueprint to say, look, we went completely toe to toe with Chelsea in that first half. We were not inferior to Chelsea whatsoever in that first half, and if we're playing against most other teams in the Premier League, then we can get a good result. We can get a good result in that game. Only because we're playing the best team in the league, in my opinion, do we get so thoroughly beaten. My
personal opinion is that we need to go strong tomorrow night. I personally feel that we need to go strong tomorrow night. Not as strong as if it's a league game, but maybe a bit of a mix and match team, but a team that can go out there and win the game tomorrow. I think that we need to get the good feeling back in this squad on tomorrow night, and it will give us a bit of momentum going into that derby. And I feel like even if we lose tomorrow with a weaker squad or with a strong squad, whatever, I think that bad feeling carries on settling in, and I think that we need to go out there and win tomorrow for the confidence. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think it would give us confidence to go in and win. I just don't think it's worth the risk. Like we saw against Rennes on that Thursday. Like, we probably played a fairly strong team to after a bad defeat, to try and get back to winning ways, but we've got 2 bad injuries. It ended up being a bad decision. I'm just worried. Imagine we play a strong team and one of Kane and Son gets injured. It will just be a disaster. I just don't think it's worth the risk. I think if we had Newcastle on
bloody
Sunday,
glass, they go fall over and get injured every week.
If we had like an easier game on Sunday, I would say I would agree with you. I think go strong, but I think the North London derby is so important at this stage of it right now. I just don't think it's worth the risk playing Kane and Son. I really don't, because if one of them gets injured or both of them, we saw 2 players get injured against Rennes. If that happens again, that's a disaster. That's like Bergwijn and Lucas is already a massive disaster. Them getting injured in a game where it was so unimportant, they didn't have to play. And if it happens again, I don't know. I don't know. Where does that leave Nuno? Where would that leave Nuno if we have an injury to Kane and Son with who knows how long Lucas and Bergwijn are injured? I understand players get injuries, but to risk them in a game where we probably don't need to risk them in, I don't know. I just feel like it's not worth it.
Yeah, but also, I just can't, with the state this club is in, we can't be taking anything. I know what I was saying before, saying that we need to pick and choose, or you were saying that we need to pick and choose because the squad is not strong enough. Mm-hmm. But right now, so early on the season, everyone should be as fit as a fiddle, you know what I mean? And I think that we need to be fighting on as many fronts as possible, because later on the season we don't know what's going to happen. If the league form completely tails off with the squad we have, then we're completely left with nothing, you know what I mean? If we play a really weak team in the Conference League and League Cup and we go out those early, then what are we left with? What are we left with if our league season falls off?
Yeah, but that's a worst case scenario.
It is a worst case scenario, but we're in a worst case scenario because of our squad. We have to think about those scenarios because of our squad. Our squad is just not strong enough. So I think we just need to fight on all fronts. They're all professional footballers. They should be able to play 2 games in a week.
I don't doubt they can play 2 games in a week. I just don't think it's worth the risk. That's my opinion. I don't think it's worth the risk on Wednesday. I want Kane and Son playing in that North London derby, and I don't want anything to stop that from happening. And the only thing that could stop that from happening is either injury in training, obviously, or them getting injured on Wednesday night. And I just look. That's just my opinion. I don't think it's worth the risk playing them both, because I think if one of them needs to play.
One of them needs to play.
Yeah, I'll probably play one of them, but I just don't like. I don't know. I'm concerned. I'm concerned going into the Sunday that I don't want to get embarrassed. I do not want to get embarrassed. And if we don't have a striker, if we don't have Kane or Son going Sunday, we could get embarrassed. That's what I'm worried about.
Well, how can we get... Arsenal aren't scoring goals. I mean, it's going to be a very weird game on Sunday because
Arsenal aren't scoring goals, but you saw how when a lackluster front line, like we showed against Palace, how much pressure we can be put under with no way of getting out if we don't have a forward line who can ask questions of the Arsenal back line. And without Kane and Son, we're not going to have a forward line that can ask questions of the Arsenal back line. It's going to be so easy for them to pen us in, and we'll get beaten. We'll get beaten. Yeah, for sure. So we need them.
I mean, we get beaten at the best of times over there.
That's why we need them, because even at our best, we can get beaten. So we have to stand a chance. I'm not saying Arsenal are any. Look, we know Arsenal are not like some behemoth like Chelsea.
Yeah,
right?
but they're going to come out on Sunday like they're prime Barcelona, like they always do against us at the Emirates.
North London derby, everyone's going to be up for it. We need our best players, and I would put them on the bench. I'd put both of them on the bench. That's what I would do. I would put both of them on the bench. That's what I would do, and I'll bring them on if things are really going that pair. Like if we need a goal, well, I'll bring them on. Obviously, if we're 2-0 down or 3-0 down, then the game's gone. What can we do? But yeah, I'll bring them on if we can look to get a goal or look to get back in the game late in. For sure, I'll bring them on. But I'll start them on the bench and see what we can do for an hour or so without them. That's what I would. That was.
You know exactly what we're going to do with an hour without them. We're going to do absolutely nothing. We need to start at least one of them, have a bit of an outlet to give us a fighting chance in the game, at least. Give us a chance. We don't have a chance without one of them, at least.
Alright, so I'll start one of them.
You have to. And if I was going to start one of them, I'll start Harry Kane. Heung-min Son, we need him more, in my opinion, against Arsenal than we do Harry Kane. So I would start Heung-min Son against Arsenal, 100%. So rest him and start Harry Kane tomorrow. That's what I would do.
I dread the thought of changing our fullbacks and putting them against Tottenham.
That's the thing. Doherty and Davis at fullback.
Against Traore and Trincao. And Trincao is also no mark.
To be honest,
as well.
Tanganga can play. I don't think
even
Doherty...
Tanganga struggled, and he's like a lot fitter and faster than Doherty. So imagine how Doherty's going to struggle.
I would play probably. Would you stick Tanganga there again, or would you put Emerson? I mean, I wouldn't play Doherty. I just wouldn't.
I wouldn't even bother. Yeah, I would probably play Tanganga. Yeah. I'll play Tanganga there.
What, and Emerson against Arsenal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or would you play Emerson in this one and Tanganga against Arsenal?
I think Emerson showed enough for me in that.
Because Tanganga can be important coming up against Kieran Tierney.
I think I'd still play Emerson. I think he did well in that first half on Sunday, and I think he showed enough for me that he could do a good job against Arsenal. I reckon defensively, I'll probably still play Emerson.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is our match preview. I want to know what you guys think out there. So join the link, the community section and I want to hear your opinions on the game tomorrow night. Do you feel that we should be resting the majority of our players tomorrow in view of the North London derby this weekend? I want to know your opinions. I want to know who you think is going to be playing tomorrow night, and I want to know how you think the game is going to go.
But Nuno's got big choices to make, doesn't he?
Big choices for tomorrow night for Nuno. He goes back to Wolves for a second time within 5-6 games of leaving Wolves. So it promises to be a good game, that's for sure.